Hey everyone, welcome to Screen Weens. My name is London, and today we are doing another tier list because I love ranking things and I love putting things in tier lists, and I'm just a sucker for doing this type of formula. So today we're doing one that's really going to land me in hot water because we're doing the MCU, um, which I am notoriously not a huge fan of. There's going to be a lot of hot takes in here, and you're going to probably hate me. But yeah, we're just going to start from the beginning. This is going to be updated all the way to Ant-Man 3, which came out a few days ago. Um, and yeah, we'll see where I put that. But this goes all the way up to God tier. Anything going to even be there? It's the MCU. Uh, all the way down to the MC poo. And yes, I came up with that myself. Very proud of it. So let's start off with the earliest edition, which is Iron Man, the thing that started it all. And unfortunately, I'm really not a fan of that movie. I like Jon Favreau as a director fine. And the thing is, I just don't care about Tony Stark as a character. And I just think that movie is really boring. So hot take number one. Hot take number two, I think the Incredible Hulk is like really good. Almost great even. I think it's really underrated. I think it has some tonal issues because it really feels like it wants to be like more horrific than it is, and it feels like they're being pulled like against these like restraints. So I think if they had been able to do kind of their original vision, it maybe be in great. But I think that movie for the most part is really solid. On to Iron Man 2, which I think is meh. I think it's less boring than the first one, and I like Terrence Howard fine. I do think that Don Cheadle is probably a better actor for that role, and I like the bird guy. I like Sam Rockwell in it. I like Mickey Rourke. Like, it's just a better movie in my opinion. Not a better movie. I think Thor 1 is really bad. I think Kenneth Branagh is pretty good at directing some things and really bad at directing others. This certainly feels like a Kenneth Branagh film, but not a very good one. Let's go a little better. I think Captain America 1 is awesome. I think it's great. I think it's tonally separated from a lot of these other movies. It feels like its own cohesive product. I think it has a great villain in it. I really like Chris Evans as Captain America, and it's like brisk in its pacing. It's just really fun. I think Joe Johnston's a really good director, especially for this product. I thought, yeah, it's kind of a banger. The Avengers, the thing that really blew up everything, I also think is really bad. I don't like Whedon's writing. I don't like him either. But also, it just doesn't really feel deserved. I know it had like 5 movies, but none of these really feel like cohesive products, which is good for them as movies. But when you make an ensemble film, it just doesn't really work in the Avengers for me. Iron Man 3. Wow, it's been 10 years since Iron Man 3. I think Iron Man 3 is also meh. I really liked it when it first came out, but on rewatch, it just doesn't really work for me. The like switch and bait that they have in it is the bait and switch they have in it is fine in the moment, but the actual villains in the movie just aren't very memorable or engaging. And it doesn't help that I don't think Tony Stark is memorable or engaging as well. So it's just a lot of, it's fine. It's fine. I think it's probably right around the same quality as Iron Man 2. Because Iron Man 2 is probably less good as a movie, but a little more memorable. Thor 2, I don't want to put an MC poo because while it is very boring, I think it is a better film than the first one. It has Stellan Skarsgård run around naked around Stonehenge, which I think is legitimately funny. And I like some of the things they're going for is really good. They just kind of squander a lot of their opportunities. The Christopher Eccleston is Malekith that doesn't do anything. That's like one of the main MCU movies I hadn't seen for so long. And then I finally watched it. I'm like, wow, that sucked. Winter Soldier, I think, is good. Cusp of Great. What it does really well. It's just not as, the main premise just isn't as interesting to me as like old time Captain America stuff. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is a phenomenal film. It's really great. It's got that found family dynamic and it nails it. I for one, actually really like James Gunn's writing. Some of his humor can be a little bit, I guess, childish, but it's fine. And I think it really works for this kind of chaotic found family that they put into this movie. So I'm okay with it. Avengers Age of Ultron is going to be MC Poo. It's just really obnoxious. It's Whedon again. It sets up some interesting things. I like James Spader as Ultron, but it's just really bad. Besides like 3 really good scenes. Ant-Man it's between meh and good. I'm going to put it in good, but it's pushing it. I think most of the reason it's good is I think Edgar Wright's touch is really present in a lot of it. And it's really missing in the next 2. Like, obviously he left the project or he was kicked off. I don't remember precisely what happened, but you can still feel his presence in a lot of the movie. And I just don't think Peyton Reed, when he had the reins by himself, I think he's a competent director as well, but I really think he's just kind of being strong-armed to do what the Marvel machine wants instead of like make a cohesive product that he wants to make, which is unfortunate. We're going to go to Civil War. I think this movie's really dumb, but I think it's good. Like, I do think the acting's like pretty great in this. I like a lot of the fight scenes. I think that the main Civil War event I just think is kind of stupid, but I still think the movie's a lot of fun. Doctor Strange was one of my favorites when I first watched it, but on rewatch, I kind of just think it's bad. I don't care too much about Doctor Strange. These like egotistical millionaires that like kind of learn their lesson, but are still kind of dickheads, just aren't really the kind of character I care about. So it was really hard for me to attach myself and watch this one. And it's just like, I think every character in this is underdeveloped. I think Rachel McAdams deserves way more screen time, and it doesn't get there. It isn't there for me, unfortunately. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is another one that was like one of my favorites when I first watched it. And I love the main plot of the movie, but unfortunately, I gotta say it's kind of meh. It doesn't have, the different plot points don't really work in unison. I think the humor's a step down. I think the final fight's kind of bad. It's not as good as the first one, unfortunately. Spider-Man Homecoming is good. Almost meh. It's fine. It's no Sam Raimi trilogy. It's better than the Andrew Garfield duology, but it's too tied to Iron Man to be interesting Spider-Man story. I think a lot of the side characters are just used to propel Spider-Man story forward and don't actually feel like real human beings, which is really unfortunate because I think most of the cast is really good. It's just, it's fine. It's fine. Thor Ragnarok's God tier. It's exceptional. It's one of the best MCU movies. It's very funny. They make Thor an interesting character. They make Loki an interesting character. All the characters in this movie, they do like a good job with. And it's funny and it's brisk and it's pacing and it's beautiful to look at. I love the different environments. It's just a real good time. I think Black Panther is good. It's almost great. I think Michael B. Jordan is incredible as Killmonger. I think most of the politics it's trying to go for are interesting. It's one of those things where the MCU has a really interesting villain and it's like, but don't worry, we made him kill a bunch of innocent people to know that he's the bad guy. Like, you don't need to do that. You can have, different vagueness in how good and how bad your characters are. But The MCU really likes to paint people in black and white, and there's like Killmonger bad in this. It's like that's not very interesting, but okie dokie. Man, like looking at this, I'm like, isn't that many movies. I'm like, oh yeah, Phase 4 was just like insane. Phase 3 and Phase 4. Infinity War, bad movie. Bad movie. MC, just not for me. I don't like most of the Avengers movies, but I really didn't like Infinity War. It didn't really feel like anything mattered. It just felt like, even in the tone the movie sets, it's fine if you know these characters are going to come back the next movie, but it feels like the movie's constantly winking at you. It's like, until next time. There's no finality to it in the movie, even though we know they're going to be fine in the long run. That's a fine thing to do, but in the movie itself, I want it to feel harrowing, and it doesn't ever, and it's kind of ugly, and I don't really like anything that happens in Infinity War. Ant-Man and the Wasp came out next, I think. That one is bad. I like some of the ideas in it. I like some of the fight scenes. I think Paul Rudd's fun, but it's just kind of a clear downhill for Ant-Man and the Wasp, unfortunately. Captain Marvel, I think is good. I think that's a good movie. I think it hits a fun tone that's somewhat different from some of the rest of the MCU. I like Brie Larson. It's just kind of a fun little time. It's not exceptional, but it's fun. Endgame, hot take. I really like Endgame. I think maybe I've never watched it in a vacuum. Like it's always been built off of everything. And it's like, wow, that's pretty good too. I think it does tie together things pretty well. Maybe if I watched it in a vacuum, I wouldn't like it as much. I do think the movie's kind of ugly for the most part. Like that final, like big altercation is just in like gray zone. But there are some really cool moments in that movie. I like the time travel stuff. I like most of the character decisions. I'm not a huge fan of the Professor Hulk stuff. I think that was unearned and also a bad idea in the first place. But in general, I think that movie's really good. Spider-Man Far From Home, it's another one that's like good on the cusp of being meh. It's good, but it just doesn't have that snappiness that the first one had. It's still too tied to the MCU. The Spider-Man movies just are too, that never feels like a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I like Jake Gyllenhaal in it a lot. And there are some really cool sequences, like the Mysterio, like nightmare sequence he puts on Spider-Man. That scene's fucking awesome. I like Happy in the movie, but it's not for me. All right, let's start getting into the shows. WandaVision is bad. I think the first 2 episodes have promise. I like the kind of tongue-in-cheek, hey, look at all these references to these shows that she watched and stuff, and I like the different decades, but it just goes, the effects are bad. The character work is not very interesting. I'm not actually a fan of Wanda in the show, like, at all. And the final fight stuff looks atrocious. The Ship of Theseus stuff is funny, but not very clever. It's kind of like 6th graders like philosophy. But it's not the worst thing ever. Falcon and the Winter Soldier it's like really close to being met. I'll put it at good. I like Bucky and Sam in it a lot. They really, like what I said about Black Panther, they do that with the Flag Smashers in this. It's pretty cringe how the writing team handles that stuff. It's pretty rough. But overall, Sam's stuff is really interesting, and US Agents stuff is really interesting. The finale's kind of rough. At least we got to see Captain Falcon's super epic, sexy suit. That's my Captain America. He's going to be great. I'm excited for 4. Actually, I'm not really excited for anything. MC Pooh, Loki sucks. Loki is ass. I'm sorry. Loki's fucking garbage. First episode is engaging enough, but man, it really goes downhill from there. I don't like almost any decision they make in that show. Mobius is fine. I don't think the performances are very good. And it's not a very fun show. It's like a fun idea, and then it's like, this is stupid. Just a lot of stupid stuff. Black Widow is on the cusp of being MC poo, but I'll put it in bad. Another thing, that lots of stupid decisions. I like Taskmaster in the movie fine. Like, not enough stuff is done with it. The movie looks really bad. There's a lot of really bad effects. And Black Widow is the least interesting character in her titular role. Like, by far. Her whole family is much more engaging. So yeah, just a little sad. What If is also just garbage. Absolute garbage. I think some of the episodes are fine. Then I'm like, I like episodes that are self-contained. Might be an okay story, but then they just keep getting worse and worse, and then they try to tie it all together, and I don't really like the animation style. I think most of it looks not great, and yeah, it's just really not for me. Can't wait for season 2. Shang-Chi, I think, is God tier, though. I think it's my current favorite MCU movie. Really fun family character work in that. I like what they did with the Mandarin. Both of them. I think the effects look great. Even like the dragons at the end, I think look fun. Even if sometimes they look a little wonky, I think the design of them is cool. I really like Simu Liu in this. I think he does a good job. In general, it just feels like it has a lot more heart, and which was really nice because as I was watching this, I'm like, Jesus Christ, Phase 4 is going rough. Next up is the Eternals, which I actually think is pretty good. Same kind of thing. Third act ends up being kind of ugly. I don't like where they place it, but for being an ensemble film with characters we have not seen before in a movie, I think they do a lot of interesting work with them. I think they all get some interesting dialogue or relatively compelling arcs. It's not amazing, but, you know, for being an ensemble film with people that no one knows, it works. Hawkeye, I think, is really good. I've never cared for Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye. And which is sad because I think Hawkeye's such a fun character, but I think he works really well in this movie. I think Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop is awesome, and I love Pizza Dog, but in general, it just has this really fun tone that's consistent through the whole show that a lot of the other shows were lacking. Like, it feels, yeah, I'm having fun watching this. Spider-Man No Way Home, you know, when I saw it in the theater, I was crying. I had a blast. Spoilers for a 2-year-old movie, but when we saw like Toby, I was like, holy fuck. But rewatching it, you know, it really just feels like, how can we make the most money? It looks pretty bad. I think the central story is just to pull things in. It doesn't really feel like a cohesive, interesting, engaging story. It just feels like a device to pull in fan favorites as like a nostalgia machine, which is unfortunate. I'd still probably put it in good, but it's pushing it. It sure is pushing it. Let's see what else. Moon Knight, I think is pretty great. I might feel differently when I rewatch it. I really like the writing of it. I think most of it looks decent until there's like CG, which there is a lot of CG. I think the Khonshu CG looks fine because he's not really like that humanoid, but like, why they make Moon Knight's suit CG? Other than that, like, I think the internal mystery and the like kind of puzzle box storytelling works well enough in the show. Like I said, week to week, I thought it was really good. I don't know how I'll feel about it when I return to it. And maybe this is nostalgia talking because I love the Sam Raimi trilogy and I love Evil Dead, and Sam Raimi is just one of my favorite directors. But I also thought Multiverse of Madness was kind of great. I think the writing is pretty difficult to get through, but I think his directing, he has a strong handle on a lot of like his visual flair that I think is present in here. And it feels like the most removed from a lot of MCU because of that. And I'm actually kind of a fan of Wanda's writing in this. It makes more logical sense in this than it does in WandaVision. I think there is a very obvious chunk missing in between those two products that doesn't really make sense, but most of the MCU doesn't make sense writing-wise, so I don't really care that much. Miss Marvel was probably my most anticipated show, or one of my most anticipated shows, but unfortunately I think it's pretty bad. I think the best parts are when it's more about her family in the city. She's learning to cope with her family and being a hero. When they really go off the rails with the show, and when they travel abroad, I think it's a bad idea. It doesn't work. It looks really bad. I don't like them changing her powers, especially because it also her hard light stuff also doesn't look very good. So I'm just like, what's happening? I think the actress Aman Vellani, who plays Miss Marvel, is great casting. So hopefully in the Marvel she gets some better character work to do. But yeah, I think the first 2 episodes are good, which is what I say about most of these shows, and then it really goes downhill. Oof. One of my most anticipated things, because I usually like Taika Waititi as a director, but I think recently he's really been slipping up. I think Love and Thunder is egregious for his catalog. I think I enjoy pretty much every movie he's made. I think Jojo Rabbit's on the cusp of being meh, but Love and Thunder's god awful. I really don't like that movie. She-Hulk is meh. I wanted to like it. I think some of the humor's good, but anything outside of the humor, like the central story, is not very interesting. It looks terrible, and I hate the excuses oh, it's a TV show budget. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be. You're the one you're making these decisions to make these things integral to the MCU, and you're and here's $7, and to all the VFX artists, here's 5 minutes to complete this thing. It's just not a fun work environment. Werewolf by Night is awesome though. I'm gonna put it in great. I think that movie, or that special, rules, and I think most of the shows should have been hour-long specials instead. But yeah, I think that rules. I love the effects in that. I love Man-Thing. I love the werewolf. I think it looks great, even if it is just a filter, but I think it's really good. Wakanda Forever, we're almost done here. Oh, this doesn't have the Guardians of the Galaxy special on it. Well, the Guardians of the Galaxy special would be good, just so everyone knows. It's good. Wakanda Forever. Unfortunately, I think it's meh. I really wanted to like this one. I think it is there are many moments of it that are really touching and this beautiful tribute to Chadwick, but it really just feels like it's being thrown into a meat grinder to try to just make money. I feel like it wants to be this memorial, this powerful testament to his strength and stuff. And I think Ryan Coogler does a good job to push for that. And in spite of being an MCU movie, I think it overall sometimes succeeds, but it doesn't succeed enough to be good. I think the guy, Tenoch Huerta, the guy who plays Namor, is exceptional. He's also really hot. I think Angela Bassett's really good. Don't think Letitia Wright's very good in this movie. I think Riri Williams is completely wasted in this movie. I feel like she doesn't really do anything, and it just felt like another thing where it's we gotta put her in here somehow so that we can be look, another character. You don't need to watch that. The last fight in the first Black Panther looks rough. The fight scene in this though looks real rough. Also, the underwater scenes look terrible. And it's not just because I really like Avatar 2. It's just, in general, it's too dark, it's too dingy, it's not fun, it just looks awful. Speaking of awful, I think Ant-Man 3 is the worst MCU movie. I think it's atrocious. There's a big problem in the MCU where they do not let heartfelt moments sit, and Quantumania especially does that. I also think it looks terrible. The environments look terrible. I think all of the creature designs feel like husks of original concepts that they're just like cannibalizing from other products. And I think everyone in the movie, almost everyone in the movie, is kind of bad. It feels like most of the actors are phoning it in, except for Jonathan Majors, who has like an incredible performance in this, despite having garbage material to work with. But yeah, that's my ranking of the the MCU. I think, as you can see, there's a decent chunk of it that's good. There's a couple that are great. There are a couple that are god tier, but a lot of it's bad. And honestly, every time I rewatch the MCU, it just kind of gets worse. I don't know. Like I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these movies that I liked initially just go into like meh. Because it really feels like a machine at this point, and it's not a machine that's particularly good. It kind of is like breaking down a lot, and it gives you like subpar films. I like superheroes a lot, but MCU is pretty rough lately. Pretty rough. What's coming out next? Is it the Marvels? I don't even know. Oh, yeah, just tune in for my review of that. I'll probably go, that was pretty bad. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Sorry if I had a lot of hot takes, if you did not like this. You know, it's fine to like the MCU. I want people to enjoy things. But I am a hater. A born hater, apparently. And I don't think a lot of these are good. So, yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to see more of these tier lists, subscribe, click that like button, comment what I should do a tier list for next. And yeah, we have a podcast if you want to listen to it. We talk about movies every week, occasionally shows. We've covered all of Lupin. We've covered a couple Marvel things here and there. Probably. I don't remember. We have too many episodes. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.